We are really excited to be sharing some photos and videos with you from our recent trip to Grand Teton National Park, which was the most beautiful place I have ever seen.
Amazing.
It's just absolutely gorgeous. And one of the reasons it was really important for us to do this video is because we almost considered not going to Grand Teton National Park based on a lot of research we did that talked about the minimum amount of time you should spend. And we're really glad we went. We had an absolutely amazing experience, and we hope that sharing our itinerary with you will help you get some ideas for how you can have a great visit to the Tetons in just one day. So stay tuned. Here we are at the Chapel of the Transfiguration. I believe the sign said this was built in 1925, just across the trail access from Murner's Ferry. It's absolutely breathtaking. So as you've seen, our first stop in Grand Teton National Park was the Episcopal Chapel of Transfiguration, which is just inside of Moose Entrance.
Oh, it's a lovely little church, and what a backdrop of scenery. The mountains. I couldn't imagine attending church there on a Sunday, but some people actually do.
It is a functional church, so keep that in mind. If you are visiting on a Sunday, your experience may be different. As you can see, it's beautiful both outside and in. It's also a great place for wildflower viewing as well as the local sedges. Definitely a worthwhile and quick stop.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and it's really close to the entrance, and it's definitely a must see.
Our next stop on our itinerary was the Jenny Lake Scenic Loop. We chose to go in this order because the time of year we were going, in early June, the shuttle does not leave from the Jenny Lake Visitor Center until 10 a.m. If you are going later in the year, you may want to reconsider this order because we saw that the parking lot at the Jenny Lake Visitor Center fills up very, very quickly. Um, we really enjoyed this area of the park a lot. It's very interconnected with a lot of the trails in this area. So you certainly could spend a good bit of time, even a whole day here if you have more time to work with. We were really focused on the views of the area, had some gorgeous views of the cathedral group. We were able to see all these glaciers so well. Had a lot of views of some smaller wildlife like birds and some of the rodents of the area. But the real surprise was the lake itself as we got closer.
And this is Jenny Lake,
Or as we like to call it,
Lake Jenny.
Lake Jenny.
And as you can see here, the reflections from the mountains show up on Lake Jenny, and it's breathtaking. And it's one of the reasons that I wanted to come to Grand Teton.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to be in the Yellowstone area, but after seeing some of the views, some of the pictures of this scenery, I just had to see it in person.
And we really recommend, if you're looking at some of these views on the scenic drive by Jenny Lake, to take a moment just to get off and walk on one of these trails, even if you can't do it all the way around. We certainly couldn't, but just getting out, seeing the trees, the wildlife, being that close to the water and feeling the air. The trail in and of itself was a different experience. It was really something special.
But these views you can absolutely see from the side of the road. You can
Mm-hmm.
there are pull offs where you can just get out, walk right up to it, and then get back in your car if you're not wanting to commit to a hike. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend it. You will not be disappointed whatsoever.
At all. We actually took these views right here, literally from the passenger window of our car. It was just the most breathtaking thing I've ever seen. So next we stopped at the Jenny Lake Visitor Area, which actually has some really nice facilities and a really nice general store. We thought this sign was one of the best photo opportunities in the park and had to all get a picture there.
One more thing to point out with the visitor center, this is the best time to stop and use the facilities, whether it be the restroom or the general store or whatnot, because there are no types of facilities on the other side of the lake. You're pretty much out in nature.
Just past the visitor area, you'll see some of these great educational areas to learn about this section of the park, as well as some beautiful views of the lake before you start your trail to Hidden Falls. All right. We are taking Jenny Lake Trail to Hidden Falls. It's absolutely beautiful views of the lake and the mountains reflecting whenever the water's still enough. Hi. Hi. Hey, world.
Hi.
All right.
Lake Jenny.
Lake Jenny. It's Jenny Lake, though, really. If you're Googling it, it's Jenny Lake. So we made an impromptu decision to go ahead and walk around the lake rather than staying at the visitor area and waiting for the shuttle. And I'm so glad that we took this extra section of trail because it really was just an incredible view and some unique views of the lake.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad of a hike, and it really got us out in nature and gave us some opportunities to see things that you really wouldn't have seen otherwise. And good news is, if you don't want to walk all the way around or walk back, you can take the boat, and it'll take you right back to the visitor center.
So our destination was Hidden Falls, and you will know that you are close to this whenever you hear this.
Not exactly here.
The hike to Hidden Falls was really lovely. We could actually feel the spray on our face from the waterfall at this point. Ed and I decided, just us two adults, to hike up to Inspiration Point, a hike that I describe brutal but worth it, as just the most gorgeous panoramic view of the lake and the Tetons.
Absolutely. The views are breathtaking. The hike can at moments get a little intense. There's some switchbacks and some pretty rapid elevation change.
So would you say this is the most difficult but most rewarding hike we've done together thus far?
Absolutely. It's definitely the most difficult, and the payoff once we got to the top was definitely rewarding.
Beautiful. I wanted to include a video of us going down probably the steepest portion of the trail with the sheerest drop-offs on the side, to include this just to give perspective on what this portion of trail looks like. We definitely saw young children hiking, and we did see people in flip-flops, but personally, based on my hiking experience, I was glad that it was just the two of us due to this part right here. However, most of the trail looks like this. As we mentioned, there is a boat that goes from near the visitor area to near Hidden Falls. We did walk around the lake on the way there, but on the way back, we were definitely very grateful for this boat ride back that cut miles off of our trip and also offered some really gorgeous views of both the lake and the mountains. Also, I wanted to note that this boat ride does offer both round trip and one-way boat rides. So if you're hiking one way and want to take the boat back the other, that is fine, and you can actually wait to pay until you get off the boat near the visitor center. Following our hike at Jenny Lake, we proceeded to Mormon Row. So we actually went back out the entrance that we came in and then went down Antelope Flats Road to get here without having to do the four-wheel drive clearance. This is just a fantastic piece of American history, and American architecture, and some of the best views of the Grand Teton Range. We really enjoyed the chance to get out and walk around this area, see these beautiful mountains. There were lots of ground squirrels running around and playing in the field and in front of the house. There wasn't a lot of traffic while we were there. We were able to really enjoy a lot of space to roam around because we were there in the middle of the day as opposed to sunrise or sunset. As you can see, these ground squirrels are much faster than I am, and it was a little hard to keep them in the picture here. But we sat and watched them for a good long while. Also, if you're not from this part of the country, something else that may be exciting for you are the magpies that are flying around this area that are just have beautiful blue patterns on their wings whenever they open them up in flight. And the view of the range is really gorgeous here as well. If you do have more time, there's a whole community here to explore, but we focused on the two main barns. These areas were pretty much the focus of what we wanted to see in Grand Teton Park, so we spent the rest of the trip hitting up some of the main overlooks we wanted to see on our way out. The kids, as you saw, really enjoyed Glacier View, but we were in for a special treat whenever we went to Schwabacher Landing. Right as we got there, the wind calmed down and we became able to see the water much stiller and much clearer than it was when we initially arrived.
And Schwabacher is definitely a place that I recommend you take time to come and visit.
Mm-hmm.
The views are amazing, and it's one of the treats of visiting this park.
Absolutely. I think we knew going into this was going to be beautiful, but I think it definitely exceeded our expectations. And we
Oh,
had high expectations.
oh, indeed, and I think we discovered this place by doing a little bit of research
Mm-hmm.
before we made the trip, and definitely glad we did it. It did not disappoint. It's right off the main road. It doesn't take too much time to get out there.
And don't let the road down discourage you. We were able to do this in just a traditional sedan. And as you can see, in addition to the beautiful views of the mountains and the still reflection on the water, we were about to be in for a big treat because
Oh, a
this
bunch of
mama
babies.
duck decided she trusted us enough to come out with all of her little babies. She was just a few feet away from us, swimming across the water, ended up swimming right into the reflection of the mountains, and she had a whole bunch. I think I counted like 8 or 9 of these little baby ducks with her. So that was definitely a very special, special moment and a real treat that we weren't expecting going into this. I think it's amazing that both Mormon Row and this section are in the free portion of the park. Now, as we did turn towards the sign for Yellowstone, we did go back into the paid portion of the park. Had a really beautiful experience at Oxbow Bend by Willow Flats. Had an experience where we were able to see a large elk herd through our spotting scope in the distance and really see them undisturbed as they weren't near other people. Jackson Lake was absolutely humongous and very beautiful. We grabbed lunch at Coulter Bay, so we were really able to leave with just even more beauty and just cannot recommend this park enough. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about some of our key takeaways from our visit with Grand Teton National Park. So a big learning opportunity for me was to wear sunscreen and some protection for my head. In a few weeks, we'll have a video up for Yellowstone, and you will see many pictures of me with something literally wrapped around my head, and that is because I had a blistering burn after making the very foolish mistake of hiking Jenny Lake without any sun protection and really high elevation, lots of unshaded parts. I got burnt pretty bad, so wear sunscreen. Also, bug spray.
There are bugs everywhere.
Ed's favorite.
I thought the wind chill killed most of them the night before on our drive-in. It did
didn't.
not. There are tons of them.
Tons of bugs. So I think a lot of our experiences in the West, we being in a really humid climate, you may even see lightning bugs flying around us now. we being in a really humid climate are used to fireflies, are used to a lot of bugs. And so when we go to Denver and places like that, there's no bugs. So we thought that Teton was going to be like that, even though several other videos we watched talked about mosquitoes. I guess I didn't hear them. Wear bug spray. We got the little bracelets. Bring bug spray. There's a lot of bugs in Grand Teton National Park. Another important takeaway with Grand Teton National Park was to bring bear spray. Although we did not have an experience with a bear inside Grand Teton National Park, we did immediately outside have a bear sighting, and we have seen a lot of videos where people have been hiking very well traveled trails, or even areas I don't really think of as a trail, like Murner's Ferry, and come around a corner and encounter a bear. And it gave us such peace of mind to know that we had something to protect ourselves if that situation came up. Instead of being terrified of seeing a bear, we were excited about seeing a bear. And another thing I think is to get there early.
Yes.
Really early. So our trip was in the beginning of June. What'd you think about the number of people there, Ed?
It was extremely crowded. You need to get there early, or you're going to be part of the crowd, and you may not have a parking space. You may have to park, several miles down the road and walk in. I mean, it really gets to that point sometimes.
So,
And it's just not ideal if you're on a time crunch or an itinerary. It could ruin it.
and for us, you'll notice the way that we planned around that was we hit the Chapel of Transfiguration on our way in because it has a small parking lot, and we knew our number one priority was Jenny Lake. So we went there first. By the time we left, there was over an hour wait for that shuttle. I cannot stress enough that I think the best way to do Jenny Lake if you're doing it is to get there before the first shuttle of the day launches. I hope you enjoyed this video with our experiences at Grand Teton National Park. Definitely recommend that you spend as much time here as you're able to, but just know that even if you have only one day, you can still have a great time here.
And feel free to like, share, and amen this video.
Don't forget to subscribe, and please tell us about some of your favorite things to do in Grand Teton National Park. See you next time.